Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us as we provide to you the big match preview for Southampton to come in the Premier League. If you're listening to the show for the first time, you can find us on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And for our watching audience, you can see Antony Costa mimicking me as we do this right now on the voiceover on this show. So, joining us on this Last Word on Spurs, let's unleash the wonderful guest bringing you this preview. Joined on my top right, we're joined by Blue's very own singer, songwriter, the wonderful Antony Costa, back on Last Word on Spurs. And how are you, bro?
How are you, Rickster? How are you, boys?
Yeah,
how are you, Matty, Rick? It's good to be back. Looking forward to it. Last time I was with you was the 3.5 hour January transfer window, wasn't it? And I'm sure Matty was with us that night as well. So, not a lot happened there, apart from obviously signing Porro. But yeah, it's good to be back and can't wait to talk all things Spurs.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. Joining and tonight, making up our panel, he was very, very frustrated, angry on his last appearance, the Last Word on Spurs, even being told to calm down by some of the viewers at the time, which you would never, ever think you would ever see. We've got the brilliant British actor, superb regular contributor to the Last Word on Spurs. Ricky Norwood's back. Ricks, how are you, my man?
Hey,
you okay?
Hey, how you doing? I'm a lot calmer. I've collected my thoughts. I'm gonna breathe during my answers. All right, so I'm ready to have it. It does help not coming after a game, straight onto the show, straight after a game. So we're gonna have a good one tonight. We're gonna debate, we're gonna dissect, and we're gonna get it sorted by the end of the show. Let's have it.
Amazing. Joining Ricks and making our panel tonight, back on Last Word on Spurs after refreshing himself from the January transfer window. We've got the wonderful Matty Hayes. Matt, how are you, bud?
I'm absolutely fantastic, Ricky. Thanks. A pleasure to be on such a star-studded panel. I feel a little bit out of place. But Ricky, the best way to do your answers is not breathe at all. That's the way I've been doing it for 3 years. And it's done me fine. So keep going with that and you're in the right direction. But looking forward to a brilliant show with you guys.
Thank you so much, mate. Well, listen, we'll most certainly try to. Many said, have we found the rejuvenated love for Antonio Conte just yet? Well, listen, we'll get into that for absolute sure, because like I say, he always is a talking point on Last Word on Spurs. But probably only one place to start, really, is just the reaction from Forest, our thoughts on that. I mean, look, and we'll kick off this part with you. I mean, many will probably argue that Forest couldn't have really been a better opponent for Spurs to face. We know they only had just a single win to their name when it comes to away games upon visiting the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And they've only scored 3 goals across the Premier League season away from home. So if anything, was that the perfect game for Spurs to face when really, quite honestly, we wasn't too sure what kind of a Tottenham side would have turned up the weekend?
Yeah, I think it was a good team to face, considering the last 10 days prior to Saturday. I think I've said to you, we speak all the time, Rick. For me, the season was done after Sheffield United. This is just getting on with the season now, see where we end up and what happens with Conte, as I'm sure we're going to get into. Yeah, it was a good performance. First half, we was really good. Richarlison was I thought it was his best game for Spurs. Skip as well. Shout out to Skip. I thought he did really well as well. And yeah, it was a good game to come back to. It's just I personally couldn't really enjoy it as much as I wanted to, because I knew the next day them lot down the road were playing, and it just it didn't ruin my weekend, but I was a little bit deflated because obviously we all hate him. So it wasn't as good as I thought it'd be. But yeah, I thought we did all right. Second half, we sort of dropped off a little bit. But it's funny because if Sonny never scored that goal and they scored that penalty, that's a 2-2 game. And you think to yourself, where would we be? We'd probably be sitting here today even more depressed than what we have been the last sort of 10 12 days. So, listen, it's a win's a win. We're fourth. You don't get a trophy before becoming fourth, but I'm sure we'll talk about that later on.
We almost certainly do. I mean, I know what you're saying there. All of us as Spurs fans, I think, as the weeks pass by, we're dreading what could possibly be coming from the other side of North London for sure. I mean, Ricks will come around to you. For now, Ricks, Spurs do sit 6 points clear in 4th place. Look, it's a place where arguably we want to be, but as we know, the Cups have really overshadowed the season in just the manner in which we've exited them. We're just now a point behind Manchester United, who do, of course, have 2 games in hand. I mean, look, this is the big thing about games in hand, you would say, that ultimately many would just want the points over the games in hand, because we've seen the nature of the Premier League that nothing can be, for sure. We see Liverpool smash United 7-0. We see, of course, also that Liverpool then get beat by Bournemouth 1-0. So, we then also see, for example, Brighton being held by Leeds. So I think at the moment, many would have probably argued want the points over the games in hand. So incredibly the position we find ourselves in, Rick, despite the crisis that Spurs find themselves in with regards to the manager. How do you feel about everything now? You've had a chance to digest, to maybe refresh what's been a difficult few weeks since you last came on Last Word on Spurs.
Mate, yeah, I mean, look, like what Costa was saying there, the previous 10 days when we've gone out of the cup, we've rested players so that we can play a league game against Wolves, lost that. And then we've got a Champions League tie against AC Milan, at home with the home crowd, up for it and ready to go. And all we saw was like damp squibs. We just saw a really kind of lackluster performance. And then to see that against Nottingham Forest, what was good about it is that I felt that the boys came out, wanting to prove something and wanted to show a bit of pride for the shirt and wanted to show that they do care a little bit. And that's what we saw from minute one. I mean, you did see it taper off towards 60, 70 minutes a little bit. They started feeling the tiredness, but I did like the reaction. But even though we won, what really kind of done me, I was just like, well, where was that against Milan? Where was that against Sheffield United? Where was that against Wolves? Where was that reaction? When we needed it. In a knockout game, in something that really matters. Where was that reaction? We knew against AC Milan that we was 1-0 down and what we had to do. And like to have one shot on goal in 90 minutes and the second one in the added on time at the end of 90 minutes is it's just not right. Do you know what I mean? So it's a bit of pill to swallow. And we're a bit of a Jekyll and Hyde side right now. I mean, we can beat Nottingham Forest and look good for 60, 70 minutes and kind of get those 3 points. But then we're going up against Southampton, relegation zone. They're battling as well. And I'm sure Costa's going to give us a few tips on who's going to score against us a bit later.
He knows me too well.
But this is it. I mean, we could go up against Southampton now and flop again. So it's all about like one game at a time. And I kind of see that the top four is the last thing to kind of go for. So all right, cool. Before I said to you, Rick, I didn't really care. I was over it because of the performances that we put in once we was in the Champions League. But okay, there's something to aim for. There's something to achieve. So obviously, I love my club, and I love our club. So it's like, let's back them and see what happens, of course. But yeah, it's turbulent, bro. It's turbulent. You can't really enjoy the wins because the defeats are so bitter. Do you know what I mean? So right now, it's a bit of a come see, come sorry type of feeling inside. Yeah. So fingers crossed. They can build on it, but I've said that about 18 times this season, so we'll see.
You're right, Rick. We've been saying it far, far too often. We have been. Just want to give a massive shout out to Christina Zanders, bless her. Christina was due to join us, but unfortunately due to illness, she's not with us tonight. Christina, sending you all the love here, wishing you a very, very speedy recovery. And I think I have been taking a bit of advice from Jackie Grealish's hairstylist, whoever it has been. I'll let you decide, all of you, whether Barnett's a good or a bad one. Matty, I'll come round to you next. Look, I mean, it's incredible when you think, Matt, that Spurs are actually 3 points better off than they were after the same amount of games last season, given the nature of how we've exited these cups in the last few weeks. And what I think was all even more staggering, Matt, is that we actually sit top of the form table in the past 7 Premier League games. I mean, I find that absolutely remarkable, given we've been calling this a crisis, and just it feels like the whole club is falling apart at the moment, Matt. Is that just representative of just how important the cups are to us, or how do you feel about the whole situation at the moment, Matt?
I almost don't believe you when you say that about the form table, because it is absolutely crazy to think about. I think like the cups are obviously very important to every club in England. I think we've noticed this a lot with the kind of influx of foreign managers in the league in the last couple of decades. It's a fantastic thing. I think the football is a lot more diverse and a lot more mixed, and you get different styles creeping in. But for foreign managers, oftentimes the domestic cups aren't as important, and that's perfectly fine. But when we're getting knocked out of cups season upon season and going 15, 16 years without a trophy, that becomes a little bit of a problem. And I think it's shown that the people at the top of the club to some extent feel that as well with the appointments that they've made. I haven't backed that up in the transfer market a lot of the time, but when you bring in someone like Antonio Conte, you're sacrificing a lot to be able to go on and win those trophies. You're sacrificing the style of play. I think you're sacrificing to some extent the future of the squad when he doesn't trust young players as much. Look at Jed Spence as a brilliant example. And you're sacrificing all that because you feel he can be the man to end that trophy drought and to get that extra bit of silverware in the trophy cabinet. But then when you exit those cup competitions in the way that we have, it just deflates you, it defeats you, and it makes you really question, is this worth the sacrifices that we're making? I mean, you look at the defeat to Nottingham Forest in the League Cup, the defeat to Sheffield United in the FA Cup, and Milan in the Champions League. That's two-legged in the Milan game. It's 4 games, 360 minutes of football, and not a single goal. You know, there's a way to lose. And the way that Tottenham have lost in those games certainly is not it. You know, we don't want to lose, but we want to know that you're going down fighting. You want to be bringing on your best players in the last couple of minutes to go and get you a couple of goals, not Sanchez for Kulusevski. I know, obviously, we're a man down at the back, but I just think there's a way to do it, and Tottenham aren't doing it the right way at the moment. And when you go down fighting, every now and then you'll get a Lucas Moura winner in Amsterdam. You'll get a Sergio Aguero moment against QPR. You know, going down fighting when you're losing sometimes does turn into winning, but Tottenham just haven't done that this year. And you just question, is the trajectory, is the direction that we're going with these managerial appointments the right way to do it? I'm not too sure, but I'm sure we get into much more detail in that as the show goes on.
Matty, I just want to ask the lads, do you think, again, I'm going to come to them down the road, do you think because of how well they're doing, it's heightening everything that were happening to us? All right, I'm gutted we're out of the cups. All right, forget that. Let's put that to the side. Any other season, we're 4th, 3rd, maybe could challenge eventually, but we won't. But we're 4th, 3rd, 4th. But because they're doing so well and where they are, it's heightening everything. Do you see where I'm going with that, boys? It just feels like we're winning, and you know we score 4-0, and they'll go and win 5-0. We score 6, they score 7. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like 11 Tenerife in us. Do you know what I'm saying? They've been to Tenerife, we've been to 11 Tenerife, and it just feels like everything that's happening. I said to him, we started talking, I can't enjoy it because of what's going on across the road. It's doing my head in.
Do you know what, Costa? Sorry, I was just going to say, do you know, for me, bro, yes, okay, of course, that's something that is hanging over our heads, but I don't think it's that. I think it's a combination of things. I think that when you look at the Gooners, you can see that their project is coming to fruition, and we had that same project. Yeah. And we should have been far along the 100%. Road on this project. We had that. We had the best young players. Do you know what I mean? And we was creating this atmosphere and the energy and the way that we was playing, the high press. You know, when we was unbeaten at home at White Hart Lane, the last season at White Hart Lane and stuff like that. We was building these things. Do you know what I mean? And we was along that process. So when you look at them, I think that a lot of us feel that not only should that be us, but that should be us on a different level. We should be further along that road. But all that's happened is since Pochettino has left and we've gone for win now managers, that whole system and that whole philosophy and everything that we put into has collapsed, has absolutely collapsed. And then it's also a combination of how we've been this season. You know, we went into this season kind of going, okay, cool. We finished great last season. We've got a summer transfer window for Conte. They've gone and bought 4 or 5 early on the first day. Soon as the window's open. When has that ever happened? Which increased the kind of feeling that we were going to do something this season. We then had 3 games a season up until the World Cup. Wasn't playing great football, first half football or second half football. Then we've had a couple of losses. Do you know what I mean? Antonio Conte's had a couple of losses, friends-wise, but also Ventrone as well, who passed, who was part of the club and part of the coaching setup. Then we've come back from World Cup, and it's just all fell flat, bro. We've got a win now manager, and when it came down to the crunch of winning right now, the FA Cup and the Champions League, not only did we not win, but we failed to even turn up. We failed to lay a glove on anybody. I know. And when you see that combined with everything else, I think that's where the crisis is coming from. It's not so much where we are in the league. It's more about the combination of we should have been far along that road. We should have been way ahead of the Gooners. In fact, we finished above them last year. Do you know what I mean? So why have we gone backwards again? Why are we Titanic FC again? when we can see what those boys were on. You got to remember, it was last year that they wanted Arteta out before he went on his run.
I know, but you think about it, any other season, we'd be sitting there buzzing if they were 6th, 7th, 5th below us. We'd be buzzing. I'd be sitting there going, yeah, man, we got this in the bag, or we're doing well. All right, we've lost a couple of games, we're out of the cup, gutted, but we're doing well. It's just them lot, man. Them lot just seem to just grind out results. And that's something that we had, as Ricky said, and now we haven't. We just capitulate. Is that the right word? It just
No, it is. Go on, Matt. You want to
relax when it matters. Sorry, Matt. Go on.
Yeah, I just think that comparison, the Arteta project to the Poch project, is such a poignant one because there's so many similarities. You know, a young, unproven manager coming into a team that has been going through turmoil in the last few years, don't really have a squad. There's an identity that needs to be instilled. There's so much that needs to be fixed. It's been done. Things start looking good. We competed for a title, obviously not as well as they're doing right now, but the difference is it got to a boiling point at Spurs. It did at Arsenal. Say the summer just gone is probably Arsenal's one. The year after we nearly caught Chelsea would be our one. And the difference is Tottenham didn't spend a single penny. Arsenal were willing to spend whatever it took to keep them where they were. They brought in 2 multi-time Premier League winners in Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko as well. They brought in some young players. They brought in Fabio Vieira, who was a brilliant signing. Even in the January window, they brought in Jorginho, and they were willing to splash £100 million on Mikhailo Mudryk. You know, it's chalk and cheese when you look at how Arsenal reacted to their project going in a positive direction and how Spurs reacted. And I know Spurs probably wouldn't have had the money to spend 200-300 million in that summer, but we needed to do something. And that for me is where a lot of my frustration is coming from, because looking at what Arsenal are doing now, looking at how the football they're playing is so fantastic. They've got young players in their team that they absolutely adore. That was us. And now you're looking at them top of the table 5 points clear and you think that should have been us. You know, it's a really, really tough pill to swallow.
It's all that's the thing, and I think, you know, we're going to come on to the manager's situation. Sorry, Rick, to cut you there and that, but it's just one of them things where I think one of your comments, and rightly so, we celebrate fourth like it's winning something. I say this year in, year out. Yeah, Alex, we got to expect more now. We've got to get that over that line. You know, we don't want these players to retire from our club and go, oh yeah, I got top 450, 10 years in a row, and I won a golden boot, 3 years in a row. It's like, well, does that matter? I support this club for 42 years because of my parents and my family, and all my dad used to say, and still does, is, and we were a top cup side. I used to love that fact of going to Wembley, and I think now, again, I had a debate with another Spurs fan. He said, "Oh, Man United have won the Mickey Mouse Cup." Well, I'm sorry, but Ten Hag's been in the management for 6-7 months, and he's already won a cup with them. And it upsets me. It really, really does, because I think to myself, we've been there so many times, and certain players haven't turned up. I'm not dissing them. I'm just saying what I see. It's a fact, and I think sometimes that winning mentality just isn't there with us. It just isn't there anymore.
Obviously, a massive part of this plays into where we are with the manager right now, which, to be fair, as we record at the moment, it's been a more quieter week on that front, mainly because of the nature of the Forest result and because it just seems at the moment that Spurs are holding their fire in regards to, well, holding their pen in regards to making a potential decision as to what is to come. I mean, Rick, if I can bring it round to you, he reminded us, or should I say, told us after the Forest game that essentially that getting into the Champions League for Tottenham is like winning the title, which, again, it's another comment that almost sends our blood boiling. And I'm sure he knows that when he does that, it's, again, almost like talking down to the fans that demanded and wanted so much more this season. Where do you stand right now on Conte, Rick? Because you were quite strong on the last show that you were on after Milan, that you couldn't quite see a way we can move forward here. So has your feeling changed with Antonio Conte? Where do you stand on Antonio's future at the moment?
I mean, look, if we look at it in context, before he turned up, we was in dire straits. We were Titanic FC, and we were scraping along the bottom of the sea. Do you know what I mean? We was. The club had finished. I didn't think we was going to achieve anything. We was in the Conference League. We couldn't buy a win in the Conference League. We were going out to Ferrero Rocher and I don't know what. Do you know what I mean? I don't even know the teams that we was playing, right? So when he did come in, it was a galvanizing thing. All right, we all believed, all right, cool. Like Costa sold me on Conte in the sense of, he's a win now manager, etc., etc. So he has picked us up. He has brought us back into the Champions League, and he has put us back to where we are. Okay, but I'm done doing favors. This demeaning talk. Look, before when he was very fiery in the press conferences after Burnley last season, and a couple of other times where he was threatening his own future and he didn't want to sign a longer contract and all of that jazz. I was thinking to myself, he's playing poker with the board to make sure that we get the play, or to make sure he gets the players that he wants, and that the board actually back their own chat. Yeah, when they say they're going to do something, half of the time they don't do it for the manager. So I thought that he was holding these cards close to his chest so that he could get what was needed for the side to progress and be a win now team. A lot of that, so some would argue that it has, he has been backed in those two transfer windows, January and the summer, and some would argue that we haven't. The one thing that we do know is that the performances haven't been there, and the way that he speaks about us is just so it's demeaning, bro. It's like we're a tiny team. It's like we're Accrington Stanley off of the milk advert from back a day. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, I'm gonna help Accrington Stanley achieve something, and it's like, nah, bruv. Like, we totally get that where we was in the dumps, and yes, you picked up the baton and you picked us back up for a little bit and got us on a level playing field. But the way that he speaks about us, bro, and the way that he speaks glowingly about Chelsea or AC Milan, and things like that, I just kind of go, what are you doing? The fact that he even said that line there, that fourth is like winning the Premier League for us, to me, that's disgusts me. Do you know what I mean? That he's saying that. And the only reason to go on to what Costa was just saying there, the only reason that the Champions League fourth place was celebrated is because the two previous seasons we were nowhere. We were in Europa League and Conference League, and we was playing not great football. We'd had lockdown, we had a lot of things. So that was to be celebrated, because it was like, okay, cool, we're back up, or we're back. Now we've got a platform to push again. And it just didn't happen. With the performances that have come this season, I haven't heard Antonio Conte once take responsibility for any of them. I said to you on the last one, he asked for time and patience, but where's the contract? Where can you give somebody time and patience when they're kicking, when they're leaving in the summer, and everybody, it's been speculated, and it's been, on the Twitter sphere since January that he's going. And it looks more every day, it looks more and more like he's doing that. I appreciate what he's done. I appreciate that if we finish in the top four this season, that it gives the next manager, or next season, a platform again to which to try and go again. It gives us an increased budget, and the players that we're looking to attract will be attracted to playing at the Champions League, but not if we play like what we played like the other day.
Worth it, Rick.
Do you know what I mean? Like, not if we play like we played like the other day.
Peter Crouch got it right. He said, what's the point of qualifying top four if you're not going to go for it? Like, yeah, it's lovely. Sorry, brother. Go on, go.
No, I'm with you. And that's why I'm still kind of Conte out, bruv, because it still feels like he's doing us a favour until the end of the season. Yeah, I'll stick around for the next 10, 12 games. You know what I mean? I'll get into the top four. I'll win you the league, in inverted brackets for those that are listening. And then I'll be on my way. Good luck to you, mate. Good luck to you.
But okay, sorry, Matty, mate. I don't want to over-talk you there. Sorry, Rick. But it's something I want to get everyone's opinion again. So he leaves in the summer. New manager comes in. New manager, we've still got 8, 9. How many players we got out on loan, Matt? 10, 11 players?
It's a full 11 out on loan.
I think it's 8 senior players and a few younger players. Yeah.
Okay, so say 8 players out, senior players on loan. They come back. They get another chance. Do they get another chance? Do they get sold? It's going to say we've still got players that need to be sold that are in the squad now. So that's another 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 players that needs to go. All right, we ain't going to do it in one window. But then it's back to square one again. Then we get a nice manager bounce, go on a little run. Great, fantastic. Then 18 months' time, we're back on your show, Rick, going, oh, we're out of the Cup. We're out of the Champions League. We got to the final of the League Cup, didn't win that. and blah, 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 and blah, blah. And it's just back to square one. I can't get excited. And it pains me feeling like this. Do you see what I'm saying? I just want this season done so they can reboot and restart again.
But
What do you
this
think,
is
Matt?
where this is where professional boards and professional people in those positions, this is where they make their money. Okay, so if we look at Brighton,
You said manager, that today, Rick. Sorry, go on.
Right, I said it to you on the phone,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
so
you did.
if you look at Brighton, every manager that they've gone for has been high press, possession based, exciting football. Okay, and they've kept that philosophy. Every time they've let a manager go, they've brought in somebody else that can either improve on that or keep that core value. And what we've done is we had 6 seasons of Pochettino where he built a philosophy, he built a way of playing. He went and watched, every level of Tottenham play from the under 10s upwards. Do you know what I mean? Like, he watched them all and he tried to make sure that everyone was playing the same way, the same philosophy, so that they could, progress through the ranks and get into the first team when it was time. And as soon as he left, we ripped that up. We went from Mourinho, who's a win now manager, who's got a totally different philosophy and a totally different way of coaching. And when I say coaching, like Darren Hart said on the last one, is Antonio Conte a coach? Is he going to improve players like down to the fine details and kind of help them to get up there? Or like Pochettino, we saw an immense amount of coaching for those younger players and those experienced players. We saw the best of Dembele. We saw the best of Jan and Toby. We saw, the best of Dele Alli as a youngster coming up and through. Do you know what I mean? We saw the best of Sonny being up and through. There's many things that you can kind of pinpoint and kind of go, oh, okay. But we ripped that up. We went for Nuno, ripped it up even more, and then we've gone for Conte, and this back three system ultimately has ripped up the rest. So now it's about going for somebody who fits the profile and the philosophy and the way that you want to play. And therefore, you're not ripping up all of the script. You're just ripping up a couple of pages. Do you know what I mean? You're going, all right, cool. But I'm going to chuck my couple of pages in here, and that's going to lift us. We're going to play in the same formation or the same philosophy, but I'm going to improve us. The same way De Zerbi has done for Brighton at the moment.
It's interesting, Matt. Coming over you if I can, Matt. I mean, you tell me what you feel the way forward is, Matt. Look, we've seen a lot of names linked with the Spurs job. We understand Luis Enrique will be open to holding talks with Tottenham. I mean, there's obviously been, again, if you believe obviously what you read with Paratici, who's now been heading the hunt for the manager, there's several Italian managers that are on the list, the likes of Spalletti, of course, De Zerbi, who Ricky's just mentioned there. Doesn't seem that Pochettino would be on that list if we're led to believe that Paratici is in control of the situation. Having said that, Paratici has got his own case hanging over him at the moment. Matt, what do you see the future holding with regards to the potential next Spurs manager?
I don't know, but my biggest fear is that I don't think the club knows. And that really does terrify me. I mean, if anyone in the football club thinks Luciano Spalletti is going to walk away from that Napoli team and take over this sinking ship, I think I need a bit of whatever they're having, because it's simply not going to happen. Roberto De Zerbi, I think, would be a really exciting one. Marcelo Gallardo, Mauricio Pochettino coming back, I would personally would love to see, but that's my heart ruling my head when I say that. But the common factor in all the managers that I want to see, and the common factor in the managers that I think should be the next Tottenham manager, is that they're a project. I think we're in a situation now where we need a hard reset and we need to get back to square one. We need to put the basics, the foundations and the core values back into our football team and start to move forward again. Because I say this every single time we have this conversation about Spurs, that right now the team, the 11 that's out there, the 9 players that are on the bench, whatever it is, it's this horrendous mix and match and pick and mix of Pochettino players with Nuno Espirito Santo players, with Jose players, with Antonio Conte players. There's so many different styles, and there's so many different, there are players in there that thrive on such different things that you're never going to really be able to get a consistent tune out of them. So, I mean, there's very talented players in there. Of course, we have an immensely talented squad when you look at Romero, Bentancur, Kulusevski, and a few others. But what terrifies me is that we've let an era of Kane, Lloris, and players that have come and gone like Toby, Jan, Eriksson, we've let that go without really getting the benefit of that. We have such a good opportunity with this new bunch of players that's coming in that we can see being the future of Tottenham. I'd even add Oliver Skip in that list with how he's progressed in the last couple of months. We can't afford to let that go. And what we need to do, instead of promising Harry Kane every 6 months, yeah, we'll build a project around you, yeah, you'll be the face of what we want to do next, actually do it. and bring in a manager who is willing to commit that time, and a manager who doesn't feel like he's doing us a favour in being our manager. And I'll be the first to say, when Conte first came in, I loved the way he called the board out in the press conferences. I loved the way he was honest. I love the way he didn't shy away from actually analysing a player's performance in a press conference. But things like that they have a shelf life. You know, if you're 18 months into your time at the club and you're still doing the exact same things and it's still not working, you got to switch it up. You got to try something. You know, these fans aren't going to stay on your side if you're saying that comment like, getting the top four is like winning the league. We've been in the top 4 or 5 of the last 7 seasons. We're Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. The top 4 is where we belong. If you can't get us into that, you're probably not the right man for the job. So it's for me, we just need to go back to what has worked for us. You know, I personally don't think we're going to get a manager who is as good as Antonio Conte at winning trophies. I don't think we're going to get someone of his caliber anytime soon. But I'm not worried about that, because we need someone who fits Tottenham. We need someone who fits what we as the fans want to see as well. Because if you know, I don't know how many people are watching, but the 3 of you there, to everyone in the chat, everyone listening on the podcast afterwards, right now, are you proud of Tottenham? Are you proud to be a fan when you look at the football that we're playing? When you look at the toxicity within the fan base, you look at what seems to be a lack of cohesion within that squad. Are you genuinely proud of that? Are you more proud of it than you were under Pochettino? And yes, we didn't win any trophies, but you can be damn sure that every single one of us could not wait till 3 o'clock on a Saturday. We all loved watching the football team play. And if that's the roots and the basics that we have to go back to before we can propel ourselves to where we want to be and the successful club that we know we can be, then so be it. I just want to know where we're going, and I want to know that this club does have a future, because I'm 22 years of age. I've got 50, 60 years left of this. If it's going to be the same till I'm gone, I don't know if I can do it.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot of honest stuff. A lot of honest stuff. I mean, and just to bring you into this conversation, look, again, lots of talk in regards to potential the next manager and who that should be. Look, we've tried, of course, this win now approach. I've said it numerous times on Last Word on Spurs that it's very silly to go for a win now approach if you're not going to give the win now tools to the respective managers and not give them their key targets. We hear from Antonio during the last press conference or pre-presser beforehand that Danjuma was a club signing. You may argue that Spurs already knew what his future was before signing Danjuma and therefore didn't want to give him the exact players he wanted. I've stressed, for me, I think Pedro Porro is a player that Spurs would have signed regardless of who the next manager is, because he's a very talented player. He's adaptable, can play as a wing back. I'm sure, again, he can adapt as per formations. And Spurs, you know, I think any manager they'll look at probably will favour playing a back 3. But I mean, I don't know what you think, Ant. For you, where would you be looking to go to next in terms of the brand and calibre of manager Spurs need?
It's got to be attacking football. It's got to be Poch style type of football, with a bit of difference as well to change things up. My only gripe with Poch was, and you know, I did like his football, don't get me wrong, but he never changed things. His in-game management, a lot of our managers the last 4 or 5 years, the in-game management has not been great. I don't know what the boys think about that, but you know, like the North London derby at the Emirates this year, Conte just threw in the towel at 70 minutes, you know, and it was things like that. And I think your in-game management, change it up. Why play 5 at the back? We need to press, go 4 at the back. You go 4-2-3-1, or you go 4-3-2-1, 4-3-2-1, and that's where we thrive. Do you know what I'm saying? Or 4-2-3-1 as Poch used to do. But it's so negative defensively. Everything. It's like, I know exactly the pictures I'm seeing. When I'm watching the game, I know exactly what they're going to do. And the other night in Milan, I was like, just pass it back. I was shouting, pass it back. And every time, pass it back. Forster knocking it. And it was just boring football. We haven't got the players to suit a Conte system.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, Rick, come around to you. Look, there's so many names that have been mentioned. I mean, we've had a list of 7 or 8 different names. And that's what worries me. I mean, I'm sure, I would hope the hierarchy when they are deciding, maybe I'm being too blasé by saying this, or hopeful that the manager they're looking for, they have similar attributes to the ones they're going to be interviewing. They're not all different types. So I'd like to hope that it's that at least. I mean, where would you be looking for next, Rick, in terms of the next manager, in terms of direction for you? What is important to you? And what would you hope the club would go for, given the amount of noise around the fan base of what the fan base would like? If you listen to the terraces, it sounds Maurizio is a man that a lot of Spurs fans would want. I'm not saying it would be everybody's name because that would be unfair to do so. And like Anne said, I don't think you can also forget the last 18 months of Maurizio, last 12 months that Spurs did not win an away game. Yes, they got to the Champions League, but my problem with Maurizio coming back is, and again, I actually championed the Maurizio appointment because I think that man would reunite definitely a fragmented fan base, one that was actually fragmented when he actually first joined. But my concern is that Maurizio will forget maybe the problems that he had the first time around, and they'll quickly come back to light in the next 18, 24 months after rejoining. So I don't know where you stand, Rick, on what the plan is for the future. And if they were to go back to Poch, surely there's going to have to be certain guarantees that are made for those things to not happen again second time round.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So with the manager list that has been put out there already, my fear is the same old. Are they an 18-month, 2-year manager? Are they just going to come to us for a stepping stone? Are they just going to come to us for a payday? Because if you look at it, what's been going on for the last 15, 20 years or whatever, is that it's been put out there that Spurs is a really tough job. It's attractive, but you're not going to get what you want and you're not going to really push on, okay? And so are people going to use our club as a stepping stone or come to us to do us another favour? So when I look at Pochettino, I know you talk about the last 12 to 18 months, okay? But you tend to forget the first 12 months or the first 24 months. The first 12 months, what did he do? He came in and he cleared the decks. He got rid of Adebayor, Soldado. He got rid of a ton of players that were not up to scratch. Even when it comes down to Bentaleb, it was Bentaleb and Mason in the midfield, all right? And they were running things in his first season. And Bentaleb came with some attitude and he sold him. And we put in Delhi there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there was those things. He overachieved so quickly. And he got us going so quickly that we sometimes forget how good and how much he done for us as a club side. We were fearless against every single side we went up against. I don't care who we went up against, whether it was Real Madrid or whether it was Juventus. And I hate to say it, even if it was Bayern Munich, right? But I don't care who we went up against. We went up against Dortmund how many times? And Dortmund were considered the crown jewels of youth players from Europe going there to achieve something. And we took them on every season in the Champions League. He made us the regular Champions League. He did give us pride. He did shut down so many hoodoos that we had. We didn't win here, we didn't win there, and he would shut it down. And he cares and loves us. He's the one that if he was to come back, he would, I kind of said this to Costa earlier on the phone, but I said, he still wears the tracksuit. He still wears the T-shirt. Do you know what I mean? I guarantee you that he's still watching us. And I guarantee you that he's probably figured out a system that would help us out, that would work for what Tottenham want to achieve. Also, you've got to look at the hindsight of things. He's been away. He's been at PSG. He got slagged off of being at PSG. But we all know from a personal point of view what type of player Pochettino likes. He likes a young player that he can put his influence on, that he can go run through brick walls for me. But you can't say that to Neymar or Messi because they look at you and go, bruv, do you know who I am? Do you know how much I've got in the bank? I'm just going to jump on this plane and go back to Brazil and do what I need to do. Do you know what I mean? And I'll see you in April or May. Do you know? So you've got attitude problems, you've got money problems, you've got ego problems, you've got eccentricity problems that he had to deal with there. If he comes back to Tottenham, I think a bit like Eddie Howe, when he had his break, right, from when he finished at Bournemouth and before he went to Newcastle, he went on a couple of not coaching courses, but when you go to other clubs and you chat to other managers and you chat about
refreshing himself. Yeah,
the refresher of things. I fully believe that Pochettino has done that. I fully believe that Pochettino would be the one that went through the hard times like he did the first round to get to the good times. My fear is like what you said there, Rix, is that he comes back and spoils his legacy, like tramples on his legacy. You've got to remember that the reason that he lost it towards the end of our time is because for all he done, he still didn't get back. For all the credit he put up in the bank, he still couldn't get nothing out from the cash machine. And he's like, what? So I'm just going to be a head coach then. I'm not a manager. I'm a head coach. Call me, change my title. Do you remember all those press conferences? It's because he got so angry and frustrated with how he was being treated after he achieved so much. So of course it's going to go sour. So a lot of people, if he comes back, a lot of people have got to eat humble pie and they've got to admit their wrongs. And I'm including the board in this. They've got to admit their wrongs. And then you've got to put your trust in somebody who loves us and breathes and eats and sleeps and breathes what Tottenham is. I've never seen a manager cry for us. I've never seen a manager that passionate when he's like this. Do you remember him walking into the dressing room when he's like, ah, and he's like grabbing his, and he's like, yeah, that was a big win. Like the note that he left. Tell me another manager that's left a note. Tell me another manager. As soon as they're gone, they're like, see you later, bye. Is that my cab? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're off.
Yeah,
they're
no,
gone.
it's true.
So there's a difference with feeling, bro, and there's a difference with fit. There's some players that won't fit our system, and there's some managers that won't fit our club. But Pochettino is a man that does, and he loves us inside backwards.
Rick, my fear is though, Norwood. I think my fear is as I said before, he did have the transfer window of 2019 was a terrible transfer window, right? He wanted Ndombele. He can't even really get into the Napoli side now on loan. Lo Celso, I don't know what he's doing over in Spain. Maybe Matty will enlighten me on that. But I think these players, if he does come back, they will get another chance. Now, do they come back and get another chance with fire in their belly, or will they come back going, I can't be asked, I'm going to look for a move? Then we're back to square one again, Rick. So I'm saying, because you've still got players there. They let him down the first time round. Eric Dyer couldn't get in the team. And
but
now
he
he's our
knows
first
that.
choice centre-back.
Yeah, but he knows that. He knows that Dyer couldn't get in the team. He knows that. He knows what type of Dyer's a bit of a leader. Not that he's a captain, but he's a bit of a leader. And that's why so many managers have been, in favour of Dyer. But Poch wasn't. And he started dropping Dyer, and he started dropping Davies, and he started dropping a couple of others. And he will make the hardest decisions. I don't think there's certain players that he didn't get to work with, Lo Celso and Ndombele. But at the same time, I think that he's seen it. He's been watching us this whole time. And they might not be the right fit and have the right fight for the job. So I see him making those hard decisions. But go on.
It was good. Go on, Rick.
Go for it. And you reply and bring Matt in. Go for it.
Look, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just throwing points out there because I think if Poch did come back, I know for a fact we'll all be on your show, Rick, going, oh yeah, but he still had Ndombele. So I'm just getting it out there now, so the viewers and listeners can say their piece as well, because it's fact. If he does come back, there's still players there that let him down.
I mean, look, I'll say to come over you there, Matt, and reference it there. We've got 8 or 9 players that are still currently in this squad. We've got a number of players that are out on loan, of players that Pochettino, we understood, signed off for and wanted. Question here from Paddy says, do you think whoever walks in when Conte goes gets backed? Personally, I don't think so. The top need to show a winning mentality have not for a while. I think that's the key thing, isn't it, Matt? Whoever comes in, they've surely got to be seeking massive reservations after seeing what's happened with Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte, where it's become public with both of them. They haven't had their key number one targets come in the likes of Jose. He wanted Skriniar. He got Joe Rodon. In the likes of Antonio Conte, he wanted Bastoni. Look, we know Bastoni didn't want to come to Tottenham, so maybe that is a poor comparison, but you got Longley. I would love to know how high up on the list Clement Longley was as an option, if that's one that Conte ideally would have wanted. What does seem clear is that Jed Spence and Dan Juma weren't Conte signings. He's gone publicly and said that about both of them. And in terms of Spence, didn't see any more than minutes off the bench in terms of substitutions. And Dan Juma, so far during his time at Tottenham, is yet to actually get a start under Antonio Conte. Apart from, you'd say, the FA Cup game against Preston, if you do want to count that, of course. So, Matt, tell me what you think holds for the next manager and who you think the club might lean towards, given the conversations that we've had here.
I think the next manager will find it very, very difficult to get money out of Daniel Levy, because as much as Levy hasn't given managers their top targets, he still spent a lot more money in the last 3 or 4 years than he had in probably his entire tenure before that combined. 200 million under Conte, probably close to that under Jose Mourinho, that last summer with Pochettino as well. But the issue is that money, like we said, has been spent poorly. And would Daniel Levy have the trust in the next manager, whether it's with a director of football, whether that director of football is Pratici or not? Would he have the trust that money will be well spent? Because, you know, I'm sure there's nothing worse for a man like Levy, who doesn't like spending money, when he does eventually do it, that it doesn't go well. So I would fear for the next manager who does come in. So maybe then you lean towards a manager who doesn't have to spend big. And look, we come back to Mauricio Pochettino, who in his first time at the club managed to build such an incredible squad and an incredible team based off the players that he got rid of, and just recycling that money. I know there's obviously different people in the scouting department who managed to find the incredible boys, you know, Eriksson, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Lloris for very low fees. But the value of our squad now was a lot more than the value when Pochettino first took over. And if you're going to sell the players that are out on loan, if you're selling Ndombele, Lo Celso, Winks, Brian Hill, and the others who I actually forget, to be honest, Joe Rodon, Reguilon as well, there's probably the bones of £100 million there. You know, which for a manager like Pochettino could be 3 or 4 first team players. And like was said there about Eric Dyer, there are a lot of players in this team that we need to get rid of. Eric Dyer, probably the top of the list for many, but even players that have been brought into the last 3 or 4 years that do need to be shipped on so we can allow some fresh blood in. Of all the managers that we've had, there's only one manager who has expressed any bit of desire to make those changes, and it's Pochettino. When he spoke about the painful rebuild, you know, Jose Mourinho spoke about, oh, these players don't have winning mentality. That was fine for him. He didn't go any further. Conte says what Conte says, but Pochettino is the only one who actually expressed a desire and vocalized the need that we do need to change. We do need a painful rebuild, and I'm sure there are managers that could come in that will also be willing to do that. It may even be easier for them because they won't have the emotional connection to some of these players like Pochettino would. But we like I said earlier, we just really do need someone who's willing to come in, take everything down and start building it from scratch, because the way that we're going now just isn't working. And if you keep bringing another manager and keep adding 4 or 5 players, every new player that comes in, their mentality is going to get poisoned by the toxicity and the acceptance for mediocrity that is already there. You know, that whole idea from Conte that winning the Champions League is, but God, imagine winning the Champions League, like getting into the top 4 is like winning the Premier League. That feeds down. The players now might think, oh, well, if we get top 4, if we finish above Liverpool, who can't win a game, unless it's against a big team, who can't win a game to save their lives, they think that's success. It's certainly not success. I'll be the first to admit, in recent years, I've said I'd rather a Champions League I'd rather top 4 over an FA Cup. The reason that I would say that is because the Champions League, with the money that comes from that, and with just being in Europe's elite competition, it gives you the chance to build. It gives you the chance to become better, to get better players. The club becomes more global. It only if you make that happen. For Tottenham, we haven't. We've got in the Champions League time and time again, and we've done nothing about it.
Exactly.
We've got knocked out in the round of 16. It's been, oh, there we go. Got to the knockout stage. It's fine. Let's do it all again next year. I'm sick of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything that could happen at this club in the next 2 or 3 years to make us win the Champions League. So forget about it. Just go win an FA Cup. You know, that first trophy. Go ahead.
No, Matty. Go on, mate. Just spot on. Go on.
That first trophy, what that would do for the squad, what that would do for the mentality and the hunger of those players, but more importantly than ever, not the belief of the players, not the belief of the manager, but the belief of the fans that we can actually do that. Imagine how that would feed down in the stadium that we had, a stadium that is specifically built to build an atmosphere and to make Tottenham an intimidating football club. Imagine what that could actually be if the players and the fans were on the same page. It's a simple thing to start off this domino effect that could bring Tottenham to places that we might not even dream would happen. It's going to be difficult, and I've said this all along. While Klopp and Guardiola are at Liverpool and City respectively, we're not getting anywhere near that level. I'm fine with that because they're the best that this country has ever seen. But that first trophy is going to kickstart something, or should kickstart something much better than the path we're on at the moment.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm reading a lot of comments. Sorry, Matty. It's very interesting when you said that, because I remember you being so pro Champions League, and that's great. You know, you've got your opinion and you're entitled to it. But as Peter Crouch said, and I alluded to, and there's a couple of comments. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. Yeah, Champions League. Oh yeah, what we hear the music and it's all Wednesday night. It doesn't mean anything now, because we don't fucking do anything. We don't go far. We don't turn up when we need to. And it's just like, what is the point? That's why we have to go all out for this trophy now. I am desperate for our club captain to lift the trophy. Yeah, I don't know how old you was, Matt, last time we won a trophy, but I will always say this. Wembley in 2008 was one of the best days as a Tottenham fan. I don't care if it's a Mickey Mouse Cup. It is a trophy. And that, for me, was the best day as a Tottenham fan.
It's the day out as well, though, man, isn't it? It's the build up to the day. It's not just actually the winning of the trophy. Man. It's the build up to it. Yeah, it's everything. Yeah.
Also, Ricks. Also, guys, just on the back of what Matty Hayes was saying there, how can you back a manager if they're only going to be there 18 months to 2 years? How can you spend 80 to 100 million on one player and give that investment when they're only going to be there for that amount of time? It actually lends itself more to going for somebody like Poch, who would be there for 4 or 5 years, to give him those 80 to 100 million pound players, because you're not only investing in him, you're investing in the philosophy and the fact that this is going to be a long-term project. So this is the same reason why Conte got Danjuma. It's because come January, there's no contract talks no more. There's nothing about extending. The trigger for him to have another 12 months extended, that's gone out the window as well. So why would you spend, apart from Porro, as Costa said there, I think either which way, we was going to go for him because he's a class player, right? But apart from that, this is why you get somebody like Danjuma, because to everybody's knowledge, you're only going to be here until the summer, bruv. So why would I give you a 100 million pound player in January, like Mudryk or whatever, when you're going in the summertime? Summer.
That's what I'm saying. So,
but do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then Poch comes in, he goes, I don't fancy him, and then we're sitting on your show going, well, he spent 80, 90 million on them players, and he's not even playing them. It's a mess. It's a mess.
It is. I mean, one target of a new measure that comes in, or maybe a player that may have a big next manager, we understand, that's been reported, is Harry Kane. It's a Kane situation. I mean, like I say, we've heard reports this week that his situation may not be resolved until the January window at the earliest, with Tottenham prepared to not sell Kane this summer, regardless of where they finish in the Premier League. And ultimately how that season pans to an end. So, Matt, just to get your thoughts on that with Harry Kane. I mean, look, he's been a vital player to the side. I think when you try and put into context what it would have cost Tottenham to try and find a striker that has scored the amount of goals that he's done since breaking through, I mean, it would have cost you probably about 150, 200 million, even more, to try and find a striker to have scored what he's done. So I think, to be fair, the ENIC have been very lucky to have Kane during their period of owning the club, in which they have. How do you see Kane's future panning out, Matt, before we look ahead to Saints to come at the weekend?
I'd be very surprised if Kane sees his future at Spurs. To be honest, he's a man who's been sold so many dreams that have turned so quickly into nightmares. You know, how many times has Kane been told, we'll build a team around you. You're the face of our project. You're going to be the centre of what we're building. And then all of a sudden he finds himself out in a Europa Conference League pitch with Lucas Moura on one side and Christian Romero on walkabouts on the other side. You know, he's a player who, I know a lot of fans have frustrations with him in when he doesn't show up in the big games, when he hasn't shown up in the couple of finals that he's played. And that's perfectly fair. You know, in games like that, you need your big players to show up. You need your big striker to get on the score sheet. But how many of those finals would we have reached if he wasn't there in the round of 16 and the quarterfinal and the semi-final? How many, what Champions League final would we have reached if he wasn't there in the group stage to get us through it? You know, he is the best footballer that I've ever seen play. And Anthony, to answer your question, I was 7 when we last won a trophy. So I haven't seen as many footballers play as you guys have, but he's absolutely outstanding. And it does become a question of how important Alan Shearer's record is to him. And I had this debate with a few people at work a few weeks ago. I said, if you're Harry Kane, would you rather break Alan Shearer's record or go to Bayern Munich and win 3 Bundesligas? And they all laughed and said, well, obviously 3 Bundesligas. And I haven't spoken to them since because they're wrong. You know, for an English striker like Harry Kane, who grew up absolutely idolizing Alan Shearer, you know, watching him, learning from him, you know, so many areas of his game are similar. That record is going to mean a lot to Harry Kane. It's going to mean a lot, but it's also going to be horrendous for him if he finishes his career without a trophy. Personally, if Harry Kane is going to leave Tottenham this summer, the only place I can see him going is Manchester United. So I'm kind of hoping that the board at United kind of push Victor Osimhen to Erik ten Hag a little bit more as kind of more of a future-proof option than Harry Kane, who's by no means old, But if you're spending £100 million on a 30-year-old player, that could be spent better elsewhere. I think Kane is going to push for a move, and the deciding factor for Daniel Levy this summer will be: do you sell him now for 80, 90 or 100 million, or do you run the risk of letting him go for free next summer? And as much as we're hearing that Tottenham don't want to sell him, as much as we're hearing that we're going to convince him that, oh no, Kane, you're the centre of this lovely new billboard that we're going to put up, I think if it comes to it, if Kane says definitively that he's not signing a new contract, I struggle to see Daniel Levy turning down a big bid.
It's interesting, Rich, to bring you in with Kane. Look, I mean, from our understanding, United, from a reports here, they don't want to be embroiled in almost a transfer saga with Tottenham in the summer. They've obviously dealt with Daniel Levy before. You go back the likes of Michael Carrick, Dimitar Berbatov, Teddy Sheringham to some degree. There's names there. Maybe Teddy going a bit too far there, but there's been names in the past where United have had to go a whole summer, trying to get a deal on with Daniel Levy. And I think Erik ten Hag wants to be in a position where he can have his squad available to him, that new striker ready from pre-season, which arguably you think with Daniel Levy, he'll drive the price as high as he possibly could come the end of that window. But from what we understand, Spurs are insistent this summer they will not be selling Harry Kane. So where do you stand on it, Ricks? And do you get the feeling that maybe as Matt says there, he feels that Kane probably doesn't want to stay at Tottenham? I've got the feeling that he loves Tottenham, adores Tottenham, but just wants to know the plan. Ricks, what do you think?
I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. He's a Tottenham boy, born and bred. The one thing that he wants to do is lift a trophy for Tottenham. And when we talk about 80 to 100 million, and possibly going to a free, you've got 80 to 100 million on one hand and possibly going on a free. I mean, could we not earn that just by being in the Champions League? If that makes any sense. Do you know what I mean? We could almost balance that up by keeping him and letting him go on a free if he wants to. If a bit like the Dembele situation, I know we got rid of him in the January, but if we would have kept him, we might have won that Champions League that year. Do you know what I mean? So is it not, and I don't know this, I'm just asking the question, but is it not almost the same comparison to be like, all right, we can take this 80 to 100 million in the summer, come the summertime, but if we kept him for that particular season and we got out the group stages, I'm just going to say, I'm smiling, listeners. So we got out the group stages and we went on a bit of a run in the Champions League under a forward, a proper football man and a forward thinking plan and a manager that plays some exciting football. Maybe we could reach a further round and get the prize money just for being in the round, and that would balance the books, because I would prefer to have Kane in my squad than not to. Do you know what I mean? He's had speculation since he's been a one-season wonder every single year. Man United have been top of that list every single year. So I have no doubt that they'll be on the same list this year, and I have no doubt that they'll try this year. But he is a Tottenham boy, and while he's wearing a cockerel on his shirt, come on, you Spurs. Do you know what I mean? So I would not worry about it too much. Most of the fans have accepted that if he wants to leave, then of course. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to begrudge him leaving.
I think there's a different thing now, isn't there, Rick? From comparison to the Man City move at the time, I think now he's broken that record and he has stayed at Spurs. And, he has gone through now, again, another manager in which it does feel at certain points during his reign, although we feel he's spoken down to us, we've also personally let him down as well by not giving the players. I think there's now more of a wider acceptance that if Harry wanted to leave, I think the fans would be more understanding, Rick, than what they would have been before that Man City move, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, because like all of us know, we all know the Tottenham journey and what the Tottenham journey has been up until this point. And so does Harry Kane, because he's a Tottenham boy. His whole family are Tottenham supporters. So do you not think that they're saying the same thing around the dinner table on a Sunday? Do you know what I mean? Of course they are. And of course they have the same feelings and the same frustrations that we haven't gone on and we haven't achieved what we needed to achieve, and we haven't reached the heights that we should have reached with Harry Kane and Sonny, at the top of his form, and the things that, with Toby and Jan when we had those, with Dembele, we haven't reached these heights that we really feel that we should have hit. But the boy is a Tottenham boy, and I truly do believe that it would be bigger for him to win a trophy with Tottenham Hotspur and lift that at Wembley than it would be Bayern Munich in those 3 Bundesligas, or going to Real Madrid and winning, you know what I mean, La Liga or something, or the Spanish Cup. Like, I think it would mean more to him to go through this whole struggle, like all of us, to go through this whole struggle and then lift that trophy at the end of it, because not only would he be feeling the same thing as us, but we'd be euphoric, because we would know that not only him, but there's certain players in there that do deserve a trophy, and every single fan out there deserves to get this trophy monkey off of our backs as well.
Yeah, I do think, Rick, just to come in and agree with you there, I do think, if I come around to Ant, that ultimately if he wins something at Tottenham, it means 10 times more than it ever would do at United, at City. It's at his boyhood club, his family is Spurs. I think there's a massive part of that as well that, again, can't get away from that. He's a lot of family there at Spurs. I'm sure there's, again, it's a tug at the heartstrings to Harry. I think from a personal perspective, he most certainly does deserve to win. But ultimately, does he again give another further couple of years to Tottenham? I mean, how do you see it playing out with Harry before we get predictions for Southampton?
I hope it does stay, obviously. But I think he's got to start thinking of his career. As we said when we started talking this evening, is he going to be happy with being a one-club man and just finishing top 4 year in, year out, and breaking the late great Jimmy Greaves' record? Brilliant. But is that enough for him to finish his career and go, I broke Jimmy Greaves' record, but that's about it? Personally, I think if he needs to go, he needs to go, and we start the rebuild. We've done it. We've done it when Sheringham left. I was devastated. Berber left. I was even more devastated. So listen, players come and go, but Tottenham will always be around. I don't want him to go by all means, but I've got to look at it through different eyes.
Go on, Rick. No, I was just going to say, Cost, I'm just going to put it into an entertainment context, right? Would you know, you've been in blue for a long time, bruv. You guys have won a lot. You've been around the world. You've performed to sold out stadiums around the world, right? But if I could guarantee you 6 Grammys, but you've got to transfer to the Backstreet Boys and learn all their routines, or you could be up for 1 Grammy with Blue, where would you be?
I'm going to say Grammy with Blue, of course I am, because they're my boys, and I've been in it for 25 years. I know no different. But
do you understand what I'm saying? I'm just saying from a heart point of view.
Rick, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just seeing it from a bigger perspective of, will that be enough for Harry in 10, 15 years' time, when he's sitting down, if his kids have kids and he's a granddad and he goes, I got golden boot every year and I got top 4, but I didn't win anything. I'm just giving you different scenarios.
No, I'm with you.
I'm with this club. I love this club for 42 years. So I've beat myself because of how. That's a great analogy, Rick. It really is. I've never thought of it like that. It's brilliant. It's stunned me. But I'm just thinking, is that enough for him? I hope it isn't, because I want him to stay.
I'm just interested to know, Matt, from you, how much of Kane's say-so do you think will be in the next manager? Or is that, at this point, Matt, just irrelevant given the nature of where Spurs find themselves in now? I just wonder how much the board will lean on Harry. I'd hope they would lean on a number of players in terms of having an understanding of what they feel. The ones that are the core key players to the squad. I no disrespect. I'm not talking about the likes of the Eric Dyers, the Davinson Sanchez's, and no disrespect again, the Ben Davies, bless him, who's been, a loyal servant. But I'm talking about the players that are hopefully going to be here for the future. The likes of the Pedro Porros, the likes, of course, of the Christian Romeros in the side. You know what I mean? There's players here, Pat Matassar, you'd argue that's one for the future as well. What do you think, Matt? Where will this overriding decision be made, and how key will players be around that, the likes of Harry?
I just want to say, firstly, I got painful flashbacks to deadline day there, hearing you say Pedro Porro's name the last time I was on here. I'm in a bad place. But yeah, I think the key players in that Spurs team, like the ones that you mentioned, the ones I said before, as the players who could potentially be the next Dembele, the next Eriksen, those sort of servants to the football club. I think they do need to be consulted, I suppose, on what the next step is, but I don't want them making a decision. I don't want them having that much power, but you need to know what managers they can, what like style they'll be happy to play with, what they can I'm struggling to put into words what I'm trying to say, but the managers that would suit their style and the managers that you can see them flourishing under. And again, I just think it is something like a project manager. If Harry Kane is included in that discussion, will he lean towards a project manager, or will he lean towards, if he does want to win a trophy at Tottenham, again, 30 years of age, could he lean more towards a Thomas Tuchel, who for me is, doing the same thing over and over again? Tottenham are insane. He's the same appointment as Mourinho, same appointment as Conte. But it is actually every third Chelsea manager Tottenham appoint, and Tuchel was third after Conte, so keep an eye out on that one.
That's mad, isn't it?
But yeah, I'd worry about where Harry Kane might try to lead the club, but also he like in his mind he could be gone in the summer. He might, not that he wouldn't care, but it wouldn't have an influence on him what manager comes into the club, and that's even more concerning. But it's just this uncertainty that has been around this club for 4 or 5 years now that is still there, and it just makes it so difficult to really have that hope and to really know where things are going. And actually, I saw a tweet the other day. It was from Simon Yemaine, and he was talking about one of Jack Pittbrook's articles, and he was pointing at like why there's this constant anxiety in the Tottenham fan base. And he said, if you take a traumatized fan base, which is Tottenham, who've been through so much in the last 20, 30 years, you put them in an emotionally unstable relationship with Conte, who we don't know how long are you going to be here? Do you want to be here? Do you actually like us? Are you just here for the money? And then it's the Conte facilitated by Levy, who traumatized Tottenham to begin with, and therefore is not trusted by Conte. What do you get? And it's constant toxic anxiety. Something has to give. Something has to change. And it's just got to be a manager that ties everything together and actually gives us a little bit of hope.
Superb. What a way to take us into this final break of the show. Matt, thank you so much, guys. What we are going to do, we are going to go for that break. Taking us that break, you're going to hear from Dan Hargreaves from the Saints View, who gives you a Southampton perspective on how they are forming right now, how they're playing. When we come back, we're going straight to predictions. Right, thank you so much as always. We're joined by the wonderful Anthony Costa, the brilliant Matty Hayes, and the superb Ricky Norwood on this preview show ahead of Southampton to come. Matt, we're going to kick things off with you. Southampton rooted to the bottom of the Premier League. I shouldn't be saying this. I know Costa is already. 17 defeats. Currently got an interim manager there in Ruben Selles.
Oh, Ricky.
Matt, tell me what you think on the weekend. We just don't know what Tottenham's going to turn up, do we? What do you foresee happening in that game? I mean, Southampton are fighting for their lives right now, desperate for points. And they got a huge result as well themselves recently to try and claw themselves out of trouble. I'm just doing this more to wind down up. You can see squealing as I say this.
Oh, you're leading me down a dangerous path here, Ricky. Look, I'm terrified. Like, of course I am. It's we go win lose, and we beat Nottingham Forest. So is it that easy to just say we're going to lose the game? Like we were saying just before we came on air, if we beat Southampton, we're third for at least 2 weeks over the international break, because United are in the FA Cup next week, and then it's the week of internationals. It's a truly baffling scenario that potentially faces us. But what we have learned from Spurs over the last however many years, when we're presented with an opportunity to make things better, we don't. So that fills me with a lot of fear. Like Phil says, we all know the script. The only saving grace for me that we have, and the only thing that's kind of filling a little bit of hope into my vast room of fear, is that one game a week, when we got to that point last season, that's when things kicked off. That's when we started playing this incredible free-flowing football. We were scoring 3 here, 4 here. We weren't conceding goals. I don't think that's going to happen again. But once we have 3 or 4 days to prepare for each individual game, maybe something can start to happen. But I'm never going to predict a defeat for Spurs. I'm never going to do that. So I'll go for a 2-1 win, but I just want to emphasise that I don't trust that prediction.
Always love having you on, Matty. Always do. Please go and make sure you check him out. The wonderful Matty Hayes on Twitter, of course. King Hoddle says, meanwhile, if we beat Southampton, that's 6 wins from our last 8. The cup exits have somewhat clouded our league form. He's right. Then we're top of the league form at the moment, as King Hoddle puts there. And coming up with you, give me your thoughts on what you expect to happen. I know you don't like predictions, so maybe you don't give me a prediction on that. Give me a prediction on this. Alex Tilianu says, if we lose to Southampton, do we think that we part ways with Conte over that international break? Because, I mean, that's also a big question, isn't it, as well? What do you think?
Great shout. I can't. I think if we would have lost to Forest, yes. I think I think it's too late in the day now. I think too much has gone on, and I think he'll just stay. I think till the end of the season.
And you want to avoid the result, I'm sure you do, right?
Well, everyone's saying what I'm thinking, so it doesn't really matter. Look at the comments. James Ward-Prowse free kick, done.
Just don't do that over the 6 yards.
Who hasn't scored? Is anyone? Who's their strikers? I'm trying to think. They've got up front.
They got Paul Onuachu in from Belgium.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he scored
yet. Many
Interestingly, Paul Onuachu was the top scorer in the Belgian Pro League until the weekend, and the man who overtook him, Vincent Janssen. If that's not an
wow,
if that's not an
wow.
I think it'll be 2-1 to Spurs. I have to go for a win. I have to.
I don't believe you. You know when you say that. I do not believe you. I don't believe you.
James Ward-Prowse free kick, but it will be done. I think Carl Walkers will win the free kick. Carl Walker-Peters will win the free kick just outside the area. Dyer will go in for a silly challenge. Free kick right outside the 18-yard box. James Ward-Prowse 1-0 down. Then we're fighting. That's all I'm saying. Oh my God. That's all I'm saying.
I'm not going to push you anymore, Ant. Always a pleasure having you on Last Word Spurs, mate. Love having you back. Always a pleasure. Oh, bless him. Always knows the games are picking for, don't we? Ricks, let's close with you, mate. It's a massive, massive game for Spurs. As Matt alluded to there, Spurs win it. They go third going into the international break, which, given the nature of Spurs' season, just seems absolutely mind-blowing how we've all lost our minds over these last few weeks and the nature of the cup exits. Rick, how do you see it playing out up at St Mary's?
Well, now that Costa's told me who's scoring against us, which is always the thing that I need to know, because I need to start putting that on my accumulators and my bets. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. Oh my gosh! So now I know that. So I know that they're going to score. But I'm going to go 3-1 Tottenham, because again, like Matty and a lot of us, we can't predict our team to lose. But what I will say is this: Pedro Porro will score a free kick that's going to be better than James Ward-Prowse's, all right?
Oh,
so that's going to be the third goal,
No way.
all right? That's going to be...
Mate,
it's going to happen, mate. It's going to happen. Don't do it to me, Costa. Don't do it to me.
Someone said, but Southampton are 1-0 down already. Yeah, but they haven't played Spurs yet.
It's impossible to know what kind of Spurs team's going to turn up, isn't it? You just don't know. I mean, again, a lot is indicative of what that lineup looks like and how the Spurs go. And I would personally love to see a start for Danjuma in there. I just think it'd be nice to see a player that's been given some invigoration. I think Pedro Porro so far, he's been getting better game by game. Many were quick to write him off after a first 45 to 90 minutes. I think we should have learned that lesson with Kulusevski. I know Kulu's been a bit out of form at the moment, but again, a player there that on his day is very, very talented. But look, we shall see how Spurs do get on. But look, always a great panel last one on Spurs. Been brilliant tonight. And thank you so much, mate. Love to have you back on.
Lovely to have you back. Lovely to be back on, people, and it's great to get some good banter with the listeners and viewers as well.
Absolutely, mate.
Love
thank
you,
so
boys.
Much.
Love you, boys.
That's too much love. Matty, thank you so much as always. Just a quiet show to come back to, Matt, after a January window nutty field fest, right?
Exactly, yeah. Nice, quiet, calm, relaxed. It's been too long, though, Ricky. It was an absolute pleasure to be back on. Pleasure, Anthony, Ricky, spending the last hour and 12 minutes with you guys. Hopefully we'll do it again soon, and hopefully our predictions come true.
Absolutely. And Ricks, to close with you, mate, thank you so much for your time. Always having you on Last Word on Spurs. But I hope this time, Rick, because we were me and you were both on the point of, I don't know where we were going, Rick, on that last one we were together on. Yeah. I think we were both ready to give up, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, we've had a little kind of calm period before the storm again. So, look,
4 days of calmness,
boys. I know, right? What's that about? But let's back our boys. Let's sing up, shout up, and let's do what we always do as Tottenham fans. I would like to say thank you, Ricks, for bringing me back on. It's been great having a bit of banter with yourself and Costa. I haven't been on with Costa in ages. But to everybody out there that loves their football analysis and loves their in-depth look into players and player profiles and stuff like that, you've got to check out Matty Hayes' channel. I've been watching him for years. I hated the fact that he had like a year's hiatus. I'm so happy he came back and he won that award. The guy's fantastic, and I love the fact that he's fixed that bloody well picture behind him, and it's taken him so damn long. All right, but
thank you very much, Ricky.
You do great work, Matty, bro, and it's been great to be on with you, bro. So if as well as you guys liking and subscribing this video, make sure you go and check out Matty and his videos and his analyses and what he does on his channel there as well, because he's fantastic as well. So it's been great to be on with all of you boys.
Norwood,
yes, mate.
Norwood, answer your phone next time, yeah? Cheers. Every time we lose, I try to phone Rick.
Yeah, man, I know what's coming.
Can't do it. He can't do it. Bless him.
All right.
Guys, we will be back with you very soon. From the wonderful Antony Costa, from the brilliant Matty Hayes, from the superb Ricky Norwood, we've been the last word on Spurs. Guys, as always, please keep safe, keep well, and as always, come on you Spurs.
Come on.